Hello, welcome to our European Open briefing for Tuesday, August 7th. I'm Rafi Boyajian, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. The US dollar is a little bit softer this morning, though it's holding very close to those highs yesterday, where the dollar index came close to reaching a fresh one-year high. We've got a very strong rebound in equities this morning. This comes after all three major indices in the US closed high yesterday on the back of strong US corporate earnings. We also have a strong technical rebound in Chinese markets. We can see the CSI 300 and the SSE Composite both up by almost 3% today, and we're also seeing European indices also opening higher at the start of European trading. If you look at European currencies, the euro and the pound both up against the US dollar. They're both attempting to recoup some of their recent heavy losses. We also have a broadly weaker Japanese yen this morning, as we see that improving risk appetite helped demand for risk assets, despite the fact that in Japan we did see strong household spending and wage data. If you have a look at the Australian dollar, it's the best performer this morning. It's up by 0.5% against the US dollar, around 0.7420. The RBA kept interest rates on hold as was expected, but the main driver for the Aussie is that improving risk appetite. And if you look at commodities, we can see oil prices extending their gains as those Iranian sanctions on Iranian exports, oil exports, come into effect, and gold is also up as we see a somewhat weaker dollar this morning. And if we look at the performance chart, we can see Aussie dollar at the top of the table, followed by the commodities, and then at the bottom of the table we also have Aussie loonie. So the loonie is another strong performer this morning. Taking a closer look at the dollar index now, we can see the dollar index came very close yesterday to beating that one-year high from back in July. It's retreated a little bit this morning as we're seeing a rebound in other pairs. So strong earnings helped Wall Street yesterday. That gave the dollar a bit of a boost, but of course we've got that safe haven demand that's been driving the dollar against emerging market currencies on the back of rising trade tensions, plus some weakness in the European economies that's put downside pressure on the euro and the pound, as well as political developments there as well. If we look at against the yen, though, the dollar hasn't been able to advance past the 111.50 resistance level. So perhaps as we approach those bilateral trade talks between Japan and the US, there is a bit of a caution as that could potentially inflate the trade tensions. It would add Japan into the mix as well. We did see some strong data out of Japan earlier today that did give the yen a bit of a lift before the yen headed back down again. We saw Japanese household spending surging higher in June, and we saw strong earnings as well. Real wage growth in Japan hit the highest in 21 years. That could potentially signal strong growth for Japan in the coming months. But overall, the improving risk sentiment has pushed the Japanese yen lower, particularly against the Aussie. Aussie yen is up sharply this morning. Aussie dollar is also up. You can see it's broken back above the 0.74 level to near a one-week high. We're seeing a strong rebound in Chinese stocks. That's helping sentiment. We also had the RBA policy meeting. They kept rates at 1.5% as was expected, and the RBA signaled that they only expect to make gradual progress with inflation and wages. So that's signaling no change in interest rates anytime soon. But of course, those trade tensions with China are likely to cap any major advances for the Aussie dollar. We're seeing no let-up in the trade dispute between China and the US. China, in fact, has stepped up their criticism of President Trump in recent days. And finally, having a look at what's happening with sterling, because yesterday the pound fell to an 11-month low against the dollar, hitting 1.2917. We've had several remarks by UK government officials as well as the Bank of England's Governor Mark Carney in recent days, basically saying that we could possibly have a no-deal Brexit. So those fears have sent the pound spiraling downwards. Pound yen is also down sharply in recent days. So Prime Minister Theresa May did meet France's President Emmanuel Macron over the weekend, but there was no progress there. France is seen as the main obstacle to accepting Theresa May's customs plan, so there doesn't seem to be any sign of progress anytime soon. But in the more immediate future, we do have the UK second quarter GDP numbers coming up on Friday, so those should be watched at the end of the week. And a quick look at today's data, we can see those Japanese numbers there, very strong household spending, and then on the other hand, disappointing German data, which is weighing on the euro. And coming up later today, it's going to be fairly quiet. We're going to have a Canadian IV PMI, the US JOLTS job openings, and the dairy auction, which would impact the Kiwi. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.